Well, it's through this window onto blue skies right behind me that I'm going to take you on a visit to the Maltese archipelago. This cluster of islands that make up Malta was called in bygone days Melita. The Phoenicians gave this name to the archipelago in the year 800 BC. And believe it or not, Melita simply means a haven or a shelter. One can guess people felt nicely safe here. And so, we're going to discover its fortresses, built by the Knights of Malta, get acquainted with its prehistoric temples, visit its fishermen's villages, and discover too, of course, Maltese cuisine. We'll have a lovely trip all over these islands. It's in that cave, just below us, that the nymph Calypso kept Ulysses by her side during 7 long years. Talk about the Maltese sense of hospitality. Well, there's a nice example of it. People also say that sometimes with the wind, you'll hear the nymph's voice. I can't say I hear the nymph's voice today. What I do hear is the nimble steps of our guide, Valerie, who will show us the way during the nice trip we'll be having together. A heavenly presence.
Hello, Bruno.
Hello, Valerie. How are you?
Fine, and you?
I believe our trip looks promising, dear friends.
Charlie.
Ciao.
How are you?
Fine.
A friend.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, how'd you do?
This is Charlie, Bruno.
What's Charlie doing? What is that?
This is carob syrup. You find it among the wild vegetation everywhere in Malta, and in Gozo too. Now in France, you like gold, and you say 9-carat gold. Is the word carat?
Yes.
They used to weigh gold with the seeds of the carob tree, because they always had the same size, the same weight.
Oh, is that so?
And the word carat comes from carob.
Oh, right.
And we give it to our children when they're sick and they cough.
And this too.
What's that?
And this is jam. It's made with pears.
Well, this is made with prickly pears. He makes jam with them, and he says it's the salt. He says, I don't know how they make it elsewhere, but on the island of Malta and on Gozo too, salt gives its fine taste to the jam.
First time I've heard of it. Your friend Charlie, you've done well in taking me to see him because he lives as people lived a century and a half ago.
And even before that. Because you know, Bruno, the first human being that came to Malta and Gozo first settled here in Gozo, just behind Charlie's shack, where there's the prehistoric temple called Gigantia. The first man's arrival is dated 7,000 years ago on this small island of Gozo, and in fact the temple has been declared by UNESCO to be the oldest known construction in the world. We couldn't leave this island of Gozo without first tasting Riccardo's cheese. Here's Riccardo. Here he is, with his cheese and his tomatoes.
Good
And
evening,
dried
Ricardo.
tomatoes,
Hello.
too. And this
How
is
are you?
Bruno. I love this man because he makes himself his own cheese. And he has tomatoes, too, dried tomatoes, olives, and also his own wine.
A nice light wine.
Your health and cheers. I'm taking you now to Malta, the neighboring island. It's bigger than Gozo.
Yes.
And we'll start by visiting its capital, called La Valletta, the Baroque city of the Knights of Malta. We're now in St. John's Church in Valletta. This is the monastic church of the Knights of Malta. In fact, it's their main church. And here are the chapels, each cultural language having its own chapel in this church. And there are magnificent tombstones. We're favored not only by the beauty of the church itself, but also because we have two of Caravaggio's works of art. This great painter, the best of the 17th century, came to Malta in 1608. And right behind me you can see his decapitation, the beheading of St. John the Baptist. The floor is entirely decorated by tombstones. Each tombstone is indeed different. In fact, the nobility of the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries is buried here. And we often have people coming to it in search of an ancestor. Never a direct one because of the knights' chastity vows, of course, but someone belonging to their family who might be buried in this beautiful church.
Valerie, would you tell us about this lovely place we're in now, the Three Cities, where the celebrated Knights of Malta lived at the time?
The very first town before La Valletta was here. They called it the Three Cities because there are two peninsulas and a town between them. And true enough, you're right, it was the first site of the Knights of Malta before La Valletta was built. And of course, Malta's history was determined by its central situation in the Mediterranean, but also by its natural port, see? The big harbor just behind us, which is 36 meters deep and 15 kilometers long.
I've seen this sort of thing several times, doors like this one. Why is that?
Well, usually old mansions always have three entrances. You see here, two of them. This one is a wooden door to let you out. And here's the small iron gate due to the fact that in former times women would very patiently wait.
For their lovers?
No.
Then what?
For the goats passing by with their goat
goats.
herds, to buy milk directly from them.
Oh, I see.
And these gates would prevent the goats from entering the houses.
Well, now I'm with Julian Samut, a great Maltese chef. His restaurant's called Rubino at La Valletta, and he's been kind enough to receive us at his very lovely house.
Welcome to our place, Bruno, to have a pre-dinner drink. Well, today we're about to prepare the braccioli. These braccioli are beef olive, stuffed with a variety of ingredients, and it's very good. Very, very good. Our ham here in Malta is very good. I'd say that the best meat in Malta is pork. Let's start with the bread.
A nice handful of breadcrumbs, two even, right?
That's right. Then, let's have the hard-boiled eggs. Hard-boiled eggs, there are two of them.
Two hard-boiled eggs.
Parmesan cheese. The ham.
And the ham.
I'll add the rest. Some lemon juice.
Some lemon juice.
We start doing this.
We mix it all.
Let's not forget the parsley. This is very good parsley.
You'll notice
Not
this
like
comes in
English
very
parsley, see? This is Mediterranean parsley.
Some parsley there.
Little parsley.
We add an egg to thicken
The
it all.
egg, see? To bind it, right?
Yes,
You see?
to bind it. There, that's it. Of course, he'll be adding some salt and pepper as usual to season it.
This way.
And now, let it rest.
For 15 minutes, we now cut an onion, like this, and a fresh garlic. Well now, we'll pour some olive oil, then the onions,
And the garlic.
and the fresh garlic in thin slices, very thin slices, right so far? Now, I'll put the pan on the fire for about 10 or 15 minutes. Now I'll get our meat ready, and then this way we're going to mix it.
Blend it.
Right. And we add some more. We roll it. Is it roll?
Yes, we roll them up, right?
Yes, this way. To keep the farce inside the meat, we'll pierce it with this
Toothpick.
this toothpick. Okay. Now we rise the fire. There we are. And have the braccioli, the beef olive, slowly brown, very slowly, until they're browned all over. And then we turn them over. Yeah. They must be browned all over, right?
Until they're completely cooked.
And browned. A nice fire. And then also some bay leaves.
It's better to cut them by hand to keep the flavor.
Yes, like this. Some more salt on the sauce. Some black pepper. And we cover it. And we let it cook on a very low fire for about 30 minutes. The time to taste them
Has come.
No cooking without tasting.
It's delicious.
This is a dish for special occasions, because most people think that meat is a thing of luxury, right?
A luxury.
A luxury. So it's only for Sundays or some holidays. Now, for the carnival period, we prepare this pastry. It's called prignolata, a prignolata. It's made with butter biscuits, lots of biscuits, lots of butter, and it's no good for your line, but awfully nice to eat. I've also prepared coffee the Maltese way. Maltese coffee, good coffee. And to make good coffee, we add to it curd. How do you call that?
Cloves.
Cloves. Would you try the prignolata?
Signora, help yourself. All right, some prignolata will hurt nobody.
You make too many sacrifices for your,
Nothing but. The prignolata is excellent, but now I'll dance it off at Malta's carnival. I'm leaving the carnival, though it's in full swing, because I'm meeting tomorrow morning Malta's fishermen at Schlock Market.
Ora scattini qua, hold il pezzetto.
Tell me, Valerie, are your markets always as crowded as this?
Yes, it's Sunday morning and we're at Schlock, the big fish market. Of course, fish is the basic element of food for the Maltese. The harbor is just behind the market with its colorful boats, always bearing the Eye of Osiris,
Why that eye?
to protect fishermen against the evil eye. It's a very ancient superstition among us. We eat a lot of octopus, either cold or hot. with pasta or just with garlic, olive oil, and parsley.
I love octopus and squid too.
I
It's
do
very
too.
good.
Thank you.
Well, Bruno, I'm now taking you to see a friend, Michael Diacono,
Yes?
who will be preparing a little snack for us.
An excellent idea.
Michael, this is my friend Michael, and this is Bruno.
How are you, Michael?
Okay.
I've said we've come for lunch.
And what did he say?
He said fine.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Michael. So this hot snack is a Mediterranean octopus that he'll be preparing with local produce. That is broad beans, garden peas, tomatoes, onion, garlic, parsley, and basil.
Right.
kemm li tagħmel titfgħu ġo borma naqra ilma, kemm tħallih jibda taħjali, tħallih xi 3 kwarti sakemm tara li jkun tari. Mbagħad titfih u ħallih jiksaħ ġo l-istess ilma li sajjartu.
He says he's boiled the octopus for about 45 minutes, then let it rest.
Żejt ta' żebbuġa.
Now he's going to fry the octopus with olive oil
U hawnhekk inżid għandi t-towm
and some garlic.
abbundanti. Towm. U ftit basal imqattab. Nagħmlu toqlija.
He'll be browning the onion with the garlic in the olive oil.
U kemm inħawdu
And we mix it all.
il-tab ftit minuti kif għadna. Nżidu l-qarnit.
After a few minutes of simmering, he adds the octopus sliced into pieces. A very important thing is to add some salt now, some pepper, he adds the broad beans, then adds the peas. What next? Now the peeled tomatoes, parsley, basil. That's all, nothing else. He lets it cook for a few minutes, 4 minutes, no more.
Well, Michael, will you serve Valerie?
There.
A nice frugal meal, but very pleasant. To me, it's a very simple cuisine, but it's pleasant indeed. Nice broad beans, garden peas, a leaf of mint, olive oil. A lovely thing to eat altogether. Valerie, where are you taking me now? After this excellent lunch.
We'll be staying in the area. We're going quite near to visit the former capital, Medina.
On foot?
We'll walk.
Don't make me walk too far.
No. Here's the gentry, Malta's
Here's a
nobility.
nice salutary sunshine. Is there nobility here?
Yes, the gentry. In fact, it's almost impossible to find a house for sale here. All around the ancient, lovely medieval town of Medina, you still find today the ancient crafts and the traditional craftsmen. There are potters, there's glass making, blown glassware, and also filigree.
Yes, I've noticed the work of all those silverware craftsmen. As fine as lace, I noticed. If you agree, I'll take you, Valerie. For a change, I'll be the one taking you to discover a small vineyard. You'll be surprised.
All right.
Well, Mark, how far on this lovely island of Malta does the cultivation of vines go back in time?
The cultivation of vines, I'd say, goes back to Roman times. Most of Malta's wines were made from eating grapes, to which sugar was added.
It was chaptalized.
Chaptalized it.
Well, gentlemen, make yourselves at home. Well,
Cheers.
Your health.
Salute.
from what type of vine is this wine made?
Ir-razza ta' dan l-eneb huwa Chardonnay. Però dan ix-Chardonnay huwa differenti ħafna mix-Chardonnay kif ikun fi Franza.
He says it's always a Chardonnay, though it's slightly different from the Chardonnay you have in France, because the soil is different.
Is it merely because the soil's different? It would almost feel like an elixir, or it's almost like a liqueur. It really is quite different.
Meta naqtaw l-eneb aħna naqtaw xahrejn qabel ma jinqata' ix-Chardonnay fi Franza.
He says that in fact here in Malta, we're 2 months ahead from your Chardonnay in France.
You mean the grape harvest?
Yes, the harvest.
So your harvest takes place in the month of July?
That's right.
Fine, let's taste the red wine.
This is Melgot. It's called Melgot because our wines get their names from the divinities that were venerated by the Phoenicians in Malta. And this Melgot is a Cabernet, a Sauvignon plus a Merlot.
Allura jagħtik l-impressjoni li l-inbit huwa iktar antik.
Right, he says you have the feeling it's an older wine because in fact it's a 62 vintage.
Quite true. You get the impression that it's a wine, at least a 10-year-old wine. So if you want to drink these wines, you'll have to come to Malta, to Marks and Rogers' domain. You'll be able to drink them with no restraint. Well, to properly say farewell to Valerie, I've decided to let her discover another version of Malta's national dish, the Maltese Rabbit, revisited by a great French chef.
Let's get on with it. We need a rabbit. We need onions, carrots, garlic, of course, and marjoram. We season it. Now we'll wait a while for it to brown. We keep an eye on it. Now, as soon as it browns up a bit, we turn it over. We add our garnish, carrots, garlic. We add whole cloves of garlic. And the celebrated wild marjoram. Our red wine. Echo. Perfect. And we cover it for about an hour.
Now that our rabbit's well done, we'll let it cool nice and slowly and start on the second stage.
Right.
Which consists of?
Getting our ratatouille ready. Now, the ratatouille, olive oil, a little bit of garlic, peppers, eggplant, zucchini, and tomatoes. Salt, pepper. There you are, 7 to 8 minutes like this, keeping the full colouring of it. Perfect. And to top it, in the last 2 minutes, the basil. There. Now, the rabbit's cold, so I'm recovering the meat parts. That's it. There, we'll cut it up. We won't chop it quickly or roughly, right? But this way.
In thin slices.
In thin slices, right.
And now the lasagna pasta.
The lasagna pasta, you take the pasta
Once it's cooked.
and cut it up with a punch. If you've no punch at home, use a glass.
For instance,
One of Mum's glasses or a mustard glass will do. We must get circles. Well, this way.
if you have no circles at home, what's to be done? Because we can't keep breaking Mum's glasses.
No, get Mum's teacup. So you start with a pasta circle, then a layer of ratatouille. It works the same way for mothers at home. Another circle of pasta. And our rabbit cooked à la Maltese. That is, with red wine and garlic.
It's still soaking.
Pasta again. Ratatouille again. And top it with pasta.
Shall we try with Mum's teacup?
Let's.
Let's.
We now get our browning stock. Go. Up. And then
We add some of your ratatouille
we may add some ratatouille as a dressing round it,
for the fun of it.
for the fun. Our marjoram. And that's it.
Anyway, let's give some practical advice to mothers. If you have guests for dinner, start the whole thing early enough. Because in fact, Max has cook's boys.
Yes, but Bruno, when you've done it with teacups, you can prepare them in the morning and get the cups hot by double boiling them. Meaning you can anticipate in the morning the dish for your evening guests, and when your guests arrive, everything's ready. You just have to put them in the oven for some 15 minutes, not too hot.
This young man's never at a loss for an answer. Have you noticed? Never. Well, dear friends, I'll drink to the pleasure of your company in Malta. To yours, my love, and to our lovely guide. We'll be drinking the celebrated wine of the Knights of Malta, produced by our friend Tony, who's sitting by my side.
This wine is from a French type of wine that is plain Cabernet and Cabernet Sauvignon, half and half. And each year, the whole production is dedicated to the next Grandmaster.
Maltese people are usually in a good mood on the surface anyway. Is it true they're people who enjoy having a good time?
Oh yes, Maltese people truly have a feeling for feasting. You know, there are in Malta over 365 churches, so there's one to visit every day. But it also means that feasts here are a religious feast, and so every single church has its own feast. And in particular during the summer, from June till the end of August. You'll have every evening in every village fireworks, gun firing, so true enough, there are feasts everywhere, right? And it's rather a mentality. It is indeed the Mediterranean mentality, whether in southern Italy, southern Spain, southern France, where they have the same kind of festivities. We do feast a lot in Malta.
I was fancying myself 4 centuries ago. I'd have been such a knight. But let us not dream. And back to my daily labours.